Hi guys, I'm here with another layout using the Best of My Life kit, the Best Day of My Life kit, and I'm going to use this craft paper that comes in the kit. I've already used it for a couple of little tiny punches there, but I'm going to run it through my silhouette and I'm using it's called the Circle Frame Collage, and I just bought that on the silhouette store. And while it's cutting, I'm just going through the pattern paper that is left. There's actually not a whole lot of pattern paper left. I mean, there is, but it's not the patterns that I'm looking for. So I'm now pulling the shapes off of the silhouette mat, and I'm going to put aside I guess the negative space and the offcuts from that, because I might use them for another layout. So there's the shape that I end up with, and I chose that shape because I'm going to be doing a layout about a basketball, or about playing basketball, I guess, and a basketball is kind of prominent in the photo, and I wanted the circles to kind of mimic the basketball and have the basketball be kind of like one more of those circles. And so I'm kind of placing it, I'm not going to place it exactly so that it takes the line of one of those circles, but I'm going to place it amongst the circles so that the basketball lines up amongst the circles. And what I'm doing right now is I'm looking for some interesting patterns that I can put inside of those circles, and I did have a frame already cut out of the Echo Park Capture Life collection. That's that yellow pattern paper that you see behind there. That was a 3x4 card, and here I thought about putting another torn layer here, but that's not the look that I'm really going for. I find using this dark paper is anchoring it a little bit too much, and I want it to float because it's about a ball and throwing balls and stuff, and I want the photo to kind of float in the middle of the page, and so by anchoring it, it kind of takes away from that. So here's the first pattern that I'm going to select. It's this Polaroid camera paper that is on one of the cards in the Capture Life collection that came in the kit. And when I cut it out, you saw that I traced around the outside. When I cut it out, I'm just cutting it out slightly inside of the line so that my circle is a little bit smaller than the circle that I traced. And that way it just helps to make sure that there aren't little bits of paper sticking out around the edges of my frame. I do still sometimes get a couple of edges sticking out, you'll see, and I was just showing you that I left the pencil line on the cutoff, and that's how I know that I've cut it shorter or smaller than the outline that I made. And now this pattern, I want it to be vertical, so I don't want it to be kind of angled. This is the only one that matters that has like an up and down. Well, there's another one that I haven't cut yet that's also going to matter. So here I'm just trying to decide. And so because I want it to be either one way or the other but vertical, I'm going to need to figure out how I'm going to place these circles on the page so that however I place them, like if I tilt it a little bit one way or another way, then that will change how I want this piece of pattern paper to be. And the Polaroids as well, because they have an up and a down as well. So there, I've decided I'm going to make it kind of tilted in the way that I just showed there. And so I'm just using my Zig two-way glue pen to glue the paper down, and I cut it. When I trimmed that, I trimmed it too much, so now I have to kind of shift it around so that there's no holes showing through, and that about does the trick. And now I want these Polaroids to be lined up with the chevrons so that they both have the same kind of horizontal and vertical lines. Just shifting it around a little tiny bit there. And now this pattern doesn't matter because it's a random pattern. It doesn't have an up or down. And for choosing the patterns that go inside of the circles, I'm basically doing it pretty randomly, but I did want another light color to balance off. The one light color, like the one with the Polaroids, is a light blue. So I'm putting another larger scale light blue pattern. It's large in the scheme of this circle pattern anyways. And this one I want it to be kind of diagonal, so I'm going to make sure that I glue it down so that it's diagonal and not horizontal or vertical. And now I have one more pattern to fill in, and I'm just kind of having a look through all the patterns that are left, and there actually aren't very many patterns left. So I'm going to go ahead and use I don't know what's going on upstairs, sorry guys. I'm going to go ahead and use this New York City skyline as my last pattern here. And so again, I'm just kind of cutting it out inside of the circle and using my zig glue pen to get some glue. It seems like it doesn't flow quite as well as it used to. There's still some glue left inside of it, and oh, I really love that actually. I end up covering up a good part of the skyline, but boy, I love how that combination of patterns look. Playing around with placement here. And I'm not entirely sure what my layout is going to look like at this point. All I know is that I wanted to use my last little bits of some of my favorite patterns before the new kit comes, and I wanted it to be mostly a title. So this is going to be a very title dominant layout, and I find I like to have, when I do a title dominant layout, what I like to do is have the title really be the star, and so I usually choose to do something fairly plain on the rest of the layout. Now I want this arrow to point towards where the title is going to be. That's from my stash. It's from the Freckled Fawn, and no, yeah, from Freckled Fawn. And so yeah, I wanted it to point towards my title, and my title is going to be over there. So these are the letter stickers that came in the kit. They are from the Capture Life collection, and I'm going to use them to spell out the word Bball from the phrase from it's a phrase from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which is it's a sitcom from the 90s that we used to watch. I don't know, I think lots of North American families used to watch it. It was syndicated for many, many years. It used to be on at supper time, and so it was one of those shows. And here what I'm doing is I'm taking two different parts of the Z to make a dash. And I wanted the dash to have the white outline all the way around it. That's why I didn't just cut off one end. I had to cut off two ends to box it with the white edging all around it so it matched the rest of the letters. And so, yeah, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is a sitcom with Will Smith from the 90s, from the early 90s, and I guess it was pretty long running, so it might have gone most of the 90s. And I haven't watched it since way back when it was first on, but it recently came on to Netflix here in Canada, so we've been watching it with our girls, and times have really changed. Our girls are making lots of comments on the boys competing for dates with the girls and that sort of thing. They're very confused and have lots of questions about it. So it's a good chance to kind of talk about, some of the gender roles that have obviously changed because our kids are shocked. So I'm going to spell out a fairly long phrase from the lyrics from the beginning of the show. So, and what I'm doing here, it's hard to describe how I'm choosing what letter stickers I'm going to use. Yeah, so I have a long phrase, and the phrase is, and I'll shootin' some b-ball outside of the school. And so all of my small words, the in-between words, so and, all, of, and the, are going to use the same small letter font, and then all of the larger words are going to have all different letter fonts. And so I couldn't use this one because it was, well, for two reasons. It didn't have an E. I was going to use a 3 for the E, but also I didn't want to put two glitter alphas beside each other. So the Shootin is a really beautiful glitter alpha called Doll, and it's an American Crafts thicker. And then these are also thickers. They're from Dear Lizzie, and they're called Fantastic, those green ones. So I'm trying to mix up the colors, the textures, and the finish in terms of do they have glitter or not. So I've got a foam glitter, the Shootin, which is again the doll thickers, is a foam glitter, so it's really chunky and really shiny. And here's the letters I'm going to use for all of my small words. They're from Bball Studio and they came in a previous Scraptastic kit. So besides Bball, all of these letters are just from my stash. So now I have to put outside. I have foam glitter, I have flat, and now this is also flat, and I'm putting two flat beside each other, but they're different enough. This one is from Jelly Bean Soup, and it's narrower, it's cut instead of having the insides filled in, and it just looks different enough to me, and it's a different color to go beside the Bball, even though they're both flat. And so I have to shift this all down because I forgot to allow for the fact that I had some of those letters that go higher. And now here I have a couple more of the small words. So I have of and the that I have to spell out. And using the same letter stickers for the small words in a phrase helps to keep your phrase looking cohesive. You don't have to do it, but whenever I'm mixing up letter stickers as much as this, I usually try to make all of the small words the same font. Otherwise, it's just way too overwhelming, and I want the large words to be the ones that stick out more than anything else. And so by making them be the same, it kind of helps them to blend into the background. Here's one of my all-time favorite letter stickers. I know I hear myself saying that a lot, but seriously, this is really one of my favorites. It's called, what is it called? Sentiment, and they are foil pink chipboard letter stickers, and they are awesome. Awesome, 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 awesome. Can't tell you how much I love them. So this poses a problem because those letter stickers are larger than what I planned to use there. So I have to shift everything up, including my circles and my photo. So there we go. I'm just going to put these back, and because I keep my thickers in those 6x12 Ziploc, not Ziploc, but the little bags, they're really easy to put away. So it makes doing a layout like this that uses a lot of letter stickers really, really easy, because you don't have to take 20 minutes at the end to put everything back. So I'm going to build this title around the word Bball, which I want to have kind of underneath of the photo like that. And it allows me to have enough room for everything below it, and then the things above it will go alongside the photo. So I want Bball to be fairly straight because everything else is going to be kind of placed around it. So if Bball is really off, then everything else will be really off. It doesn't really matter if some of these aren't 100% straight because I'm purposely making some of them have like a bouncing line on the bottom so that they go kind of up and down. You'll see me do it with this. So see, the E is higher up than the D and the I, and then my next letter is also the S is going to be up a bit higher than those two. So it kind of goes up and down, and then the T dangles down a little bit. And that makes the word outside really contrast with the word Bball. So even though they're both flat, as I've mentioned several times, they're different enough in several different ways. And luckily, all of these letter stickers are forgiving enough that you can shift them around once they're down. I try to wait until they're really in the place I want before I give them their last kind of smush to keep them in place. And now I want these two S's to not line up entirely, so that's why you'll notice I started the S for the word some over just slightly so that I could put the S from Shootin over to the left a little bit more so they didn't line up too much. Because underneath of the Bball, none of the words line up, so I didn't want the words above it to line up. Otherwise, something would look off. So I'm finishing off the title here. So I worked my way around Bball, I worked my way down from it, and then I worked my way up from it. Now I'm just going to put a little ellipse, which is the 3 little dot dot dot, and that just indicates that it's part of a larger phrase. I'm breaking it up here. I was actually thinking about putting the chillin' out, max and relaxin' part on this too, but once I got this part down, this was the most important part because it's about the photo. Once I got this part down, I realized that putting all those other words above the title would be way too much, so I decided to just leave it as it is. I'm going to use a .05 journaling pen here because I want it to stand out. I'm going to journal right over these white lines, and what I want to do in this journaling piece, which I want it to be fairly succinct, I don't want it to be terribly long, but I want it to join together the idea of the bike, which so far seems pretty random, and the basketball, which fits because I've got balls and stuff, right? So I'm saying that my journaling says, well, it's not much like the beginning of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which we've been watching on Netflix, but we like to bike up to Abbey Park and shoot some hoops whenever we can. So again, I did that in .05 because it's a relatively heavy pen and it will show up over all of those hash marks that I was writing over. And yeah, so that journaling piece, it was small and followed the line, so it didn't really change the design of the project. So I just went back and added some sewing to the circles. They just seemed a little plain. The layout was lacking a little something. So usually when a layout is lacking something, I will either add sewing or outlining or something like that. So I did sewing in this example. Oh yeah, what was I talking about again? Oh yeah, my journaling. So it kind of, in a very short couple of sentences, or I guess it's kind of one big long run-on sentence, it talks about the fact that we bike there, it talks about the fact that we've been playing basketball lately, and it talks about the fact that we've been watching The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So one tiny little bit of journaling kind of hits on all 3 of those points, which is what I wanted it to do. I don't use a whole lot of journaling on my layouts. I tend to let the photo and the title do most of the memory keeping for me, and that's just my own personal style. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time writing out huge paragraphs of text, and that's just something that, I mean, this is my hobby and I want it to be fun for me, and I think that I can manage to capture memories in the way that I do, without a whole ton of journaling. Occasionally I will do a lot of journaling. So what I did there was I just switched it because I didn't want the yellow bow to be on the yellow paper. So this way that switch allows the bow by the yellow to stand out a little bit more. And those bows I took off of the paper, off of the clothespins. They came in the kit and they're one of my favorite embellishments in a really long time. I'm just going to put a couple of clusters of enamel dots here. I think enamel dots really suit this layout quite well because of all the circle themes and, to look like balls and bubbles and whatnot. Has kind of like a bubbly look to it. And I'm putting a couple more enamel dots over here, even though there aren't any circles over here, any of the die cut circles, just because I want it to kind of lead towards the title. And when I do my misting or my ink splotting, and I love how these bows look with large enamel dots in the middle of them, and I don't have many uses for large enamel dots, so that's a nice way to use them up. When I do my sprinkling of some mist, I want to put some up by the title, and so having some enamel dots over there just makes it kind of fit. So I am masking off my title as well as my photo just because I don't want ink spots on my title. I worked really hard to get it all lined up and looking the way I wanted it to look. And when I mist, I'm putting mist right around where all of the enamel dots are. And I often do this as a way to make enamel dots blend into a layout a little bit. So putting the mist just helps them look a lot more random. I find sometimes my enamel dots look kind of contrived, like they look set up, and I'm kind of looking for more of a random look, and so by splattering some ink around it, it helps them to blend in, and the whole thing ends up looking quite random. If you wanted your enamel dots to stand out more because, you know, they're nice embellishments and that makes good sense, you might not want to add the splatter, or put the splatter in different places, I guess. So the splatter did land on some of my journaling, so I just took my marker and went over the parts that it had covered. And that is about it. So thanks so much for watching this one, and I hope you guys picked up a couple of tips on how to use a whole bunch of different letter stickers on a layout. This is a great thing to do when you're kind of at the end of your kit and starting to run out of the pattern papers that you like. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and have a really great scrappy week.